My name is Ella Morales. I am 30 years old. 11 years ago, my mother took my older sister and my younger sister on a month-long family road trip, leaving me behind with nothing but a short note saying I was old enough to handle things myself and not to wait up for their return. I managed on my own until my neighbor, Evelyn Grant, stepped in and became my support system. Today, in lawyer Harlan Brooks' office in suburban Nashville, my mother sits across the table and coldly states that I should sign over the trust fund Evelyn left me so my sisters can use it properly since I was never really part of the family core anyway. The words hit like ice. I felt my resolve harden as I prepared to finally stop letting her erase my place in the world. If you have ever been made to feel invisible by your own mother, share your experience in the comments. Knowing others have gone through similar pain makes these stories worth telling. That moment in Mr. Brooks' office felt like the room itself had sucked all the air out of my lungs. My mother leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, her voice flat, and certain like she was reading from a grocery list instead of tearing apart everything I had built since that awful summer when I was 19. She did not even glance at my father or my sisters sitting beside her. She just kept her eyes locked on me, waiting for the nod she assumed would come. I had driven straight from my apartment after the urgent call about my father's health scare earlier that morning. Still in my work clothes from the customer success team at the tech firm where I handled client escalations all day. The drive through the suburban Nashville streets had given me too much time to replay old patterns in my head, but nothing prepared me for her opening line the second Mr. Brooks finished explaining the medical power of attorney paperwork. "Ella, you sign this and hand over what Evelyn left you," my mother said. "Your sisters have real lives with real responsibilities. You can step up like you always do." My father cleared his throat and cut in before I could respond, his tone sharp and unexpected. "Sophia, that is enough. This is not the time to start dividing things that are not even ours." He pushed his chair back slightly, like he might stand and walk out, but he stayed jaw tight, eyes flicking between us. It was not the usual quiet agreement I had come to expect from him over the years. This time, he actually pushed back, and it threw me off balance almost as much as her demand. My older sister shifted in her seat phone, still in her hand, scrolling like the whole conversation bored her. My younger sister just looked at me with that familiar mix of pity and impatience. "Come on, Ella," my younger sister said softly, but my mother cut her off with a wave of her hand. "No, let me finish. Evelyn was always too soft on you anyway. That trust fund should go where it can actually do some good for the family, not sit in your account while you play house with your little job and your boyfriend." The words landed exactly where she meant them to, right in the soft spot she had carved out over more than a decade of small cuts and bigger absences. I felt my stomach twist, but I kept my face still the way Evelyn had taught me during those long evenings when I was 19 and learning how to stand up straight again after being left behind. Evelyn Grant had been my neighbor back then, the one who noticed the lights staying on in my empty house. For 11 straight days while my family posted pictures from their road trip. She had knocked on my door with a casserole and never really left my life after that. She listened when I cried about the note my mother left on the fridge, the one that said I was old enough to figure it out. She helped me enroll in community college classes, drove me to job interviews, and slowly showed me what it looked like when someone actually saw me. By the time I turned 24, I had a full-time role at the tech company, handling upset clients with the same calm I had learned from Evelyn's quiet encouragement. I met Jacob Bennett through a mutual friend at a company picnic 2 years later. He was steady in a way that felt safe, the kind of guy who remembered small details like how I took my coffee and never made me feel like an afterthought. We had been together for 3 years now, and he had met my family only a handful of times because I kept those visits short on purpose. My best friend Leah Carter knew the whole history. She worked at the same firm as me in the marketing department, and she had been the one who listened to every late-night vent about my mother's latest text, demanding I drop everything for a family favor that always somehow benefited my sisters more. Ryan Fletcher, my colleague on the client success team, had become another quiet anchor. He had overheard one of my mother's calls during a lunch break last year and later pulled me aside to say, "Ella, you do not have to carry that alone." Having him and Leah in my corner made the isolation from my own family feel a little less heavy, even if I never fully explained how deep it went. But sitting in that office, with my mother's words still hanging in the air, I could feel the old weight settling back on my shoulders. My mother leaned forward, voice dropping into that sarcastic tone she saved for moments when she wanted to remind me of my place. "You have always been the independent one, Ella. Remember when you were 19 and we went on that trip? You survived just fine. This is no different. Your sisters have weddings to plan and careers that actually matter. You can take a few months off work. It is not like your job is curing cancer." My father stood up then, muttering something about needing fresh air, and stepped out into the hallway without another word. It was the second time he had pushed back that day, and it left my mother blinking for half a second before she recovered. "See, even your father knows this is the right thing," she said, though her eyes showed she was annoyed he had left. "Sign the papers, Ella." Evelyn would have wanted the money to stay in the family, not tied up with someone who was never really one of us anyway. The lawyer, Mr. Harlan Brooks, cleared his throat and reminded everyone that the trust fund was legally mine alone, set up by Evelyn with very specific instructions before she passed 4 years ago from a sudden illness. He had been Evelyn's attorney too, and he looked at me with a small nod of encouragement. Elena Santos, the office assistant who had greeted me when I arrived, hovered near the door with fresh coffee, like she sensed the tension might boil over any minute. Leah had texted me right before the meeting asking if I wanted her to swing by after work. Ryan had offered to cover my afternoon calls so I could focus. Their support felt like a lifeline, but my mother's stare kept pulling me back into the old role I had played for so long. I thought about the 11 days I spent alone at 19, eating cereal for dinner and telling myself the note on the fridge was just a mistake. Evelyn had been the one to take me grocery shopping, to help me apply for scholarships to celebrate when I landed my first real paycheck. She had never asked for anything in return, except that I promised to value myself the way she valued me. My mother had never once acknowledged that help. Instead, she acted like Evelyn had stolen me from the family, like my independence was a personal betrayal instead of a survival skill she had forced on me. My older sister finally spoke up, voice sweet, but edged with impatience. "Ella, it is not like we are asking for everything. Just the trust fund. You know my mother is right. You have always been the one who could handle the hard stuff." My younger sister nodded along, checking her phone again, like the conversation was already decided. My mother smiled that thin smile she used when she knew she had the upper hand. "Exactly. And if you refuse, well, we will all know exactly where your loyalties lie. After everything your father and I have done for you over the years." The words stung because they twisted the truth into something ugly. They had done almost nothing after that road trip except send occasional texts asking for favors when it suited them. I had built my life around the gaps they left, with Evelyn, Jacob, Leah, and Ryan filling in the spaces. But here my mother was rewriting it all in front of the lawyer, like it was fact, Mr. Brooks interjected calmly, explaining the documents again, but my mother's voice cut through once more. Ella, stop making this difficult. Sign it. It is the least you can do after all the times we had to carry you when you were younger. My father had stepped back into the room by then, and he let out a short, frustrated breath. Sophia, you are pushing too hard. Let the girl breathe. It was the third time he had spoken up, and it seemed to surprise even him. I sat there, heart hammering, feeling the years of small violations stacking up like bricks. The forgotten birthdays, the holiday photos that never included me, the casual comments about how I was the easy one who never needed anything. Each one had been my mother's doing, delivered with that same cold sarcasm that made me question my own worth for days afterward. Leah had warned me this meeting would be a trap. Ryan had joked that I should bring backup, but I had hoped for once it would be different. My mother tapped her finger on the table, eyes narrowing. Well, we are waiting, Ella. Do not make me say it again. The room went quiet, everyone watching me. I felt the familiar pull to smooth things over, to be the responsible one again, but something in my chest had finally snapped. I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could get the words out, my phone buzzed on the table with a text from my older sister sitting right across from me. The preview flashed on the screen. My mother says if you do not sign today, we will have to tell Jacob the truth about what really happened 11 years ago. My stomach dropped. I had not told Jacob the full story of that month alone, the nights I cried in Evelyn's guest room, wondering why my own mother could leave me so easily. My mother noticed the phone and smiled again, sharper this time. Go ahead, check it. Family business should stay in the family. Do you not think? The message hung there like a threat I could not ignore, and I realized this was not going to end with a simple refusal. My mother had more cards to play, and she had just shown me the first one. I pushed the papers away and walked out the door, clicking shut behind me like a period at the end of a sentence I had waited years to write. The hallway felt too bright after the dim office, and my phone was still buzzing in my hand. I answered Jacob's call on the third ring, stepping into the parking lot where the suburban Nashville air hit me warm and heavy. Ella, what the hell is going on? His voice came through tight with confusion and something sharper underneath. Your mother just called me out of nowhere. Said there was stuff from 11 years ago I needed to know before we got any more serious. She made it sound like you hid how bad things really were back then. Like you let everyone think you were fine when you were not. Is that true? Why would you not tell me the whole story if it was that heavy? The question landed like another slap, and I could hear my mother's version already twisting in his head, turning my survival into some secret I had kept from him on purpose. I tried to explain the road trip, the note, the empty house, but the words felt small over the phone while cars passed on the street behind me. He listened, but I could tell the seed had been planted, the doubt creeping in exactly the way she planned. I just need a minute to process, he said finally, and the line went quiet for a beat too long. Maybe we should talk in person tonight. This feels bigger than I thought. I agreed and hung up, but the call left me standing there in the parking lot with my heart pounding harder than it had in the office. Leah's text came through right then, asking if I had survived the meeting and offering to meet at our usual coffee spot after her marketing shift ended. Ryan had followed up with a message saying he had covered my last 2 client calls and that the team was fine without me for the rest of the day. Their support felt real, in a way my family's never had, but it also made the loneliness sharper when I realized how much I had kept hidden, even from Jacob. By the time I got home that evening, the group text from my family had already blown up. My mother had sent a long message about how I was choosing some dead neighbor's money over blood. and how the rest of them were disappointed but not surprised. My father had added a single reply that made my chest ache in a whole new way. We all need to calm down and remember what family means here. It was not agreement with me. It was another quiet way of siding with her while pretending to be neutral, the kind of move that left me feeling more erased than if he had stayed silent. The next morning, my phone rang with my mother's name on the screen before I even finished my coffee. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me needed to hear her say it out loud one more time. "Ella," she started the second I answered her voice, dripping with that cold sarcasm she saved for moments when she wanted to remind me exactly where I stood. "I see you are still playing the victim after yesterday. Jacob called me back last night, you know. I told him the real story about those 11 days we were on the road trip 11 years ago, how you never once reached out because you were too busy feeling sorry for yourself. Instead of acting like part of this family, sign the trust fund over today, or I will make sure he hears every detail about how Evelyn only took you in because she felt bad for the extra piece we left behind." I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white, but I kept my voice even. "I am not signing anything, Mom. Evelyn left that money to me because she saw what none of you wanted to. This is not about the trust fund anymore. It is about you still treating me like I am the one who owes you for surviving what you did." Before she could fire back, I heard my father's voice cut in from the background on speakerphone, sharp and blunt, in a way that stopped me cold. He had never spoken up like this before, not with that kind of cold finality. "Sophia is right, Ella. We left you that summer to teach you independence the hard way, and look how it turned out. You built a job, a boyfriend, a whole life without us. It worked. Stop acting like we abandoned you when we gave you exactly what you needed to stand on your own 2 feet." The words landed like a slap I never saw coming. My father, the one who had pushed back a little in the office, had just admitted out loud that the whole road trip had been deliberate, that they had planned to leave me behind like some kind of tough love experiment. No awkward laugh this time. No changing the subject. Just a flat, shocking defense of her that made my stomach drop. My mother jumped right back in her tone, triumphant. "See? Even your father agrees. You were always the one who could handle being left out. Your sisters have real lives with real needs. My older daughter's wedding is coming up next spring, and my younger daughter's new apartment lease is twice what she can afford. The trust fund would fix that, but you would rather hoard it like some trophy from a neighbor who pitied you. Call Jacob and fix this before he starts wondering if you are worth the drama." I hung up without another word, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. My older sister texted a minute later, her message short and cutting. "My mother's right. You are making this harder than it has to be for everyone." My younger sister followed with a simple thumbs down emoji, like the whole thing was just an inconvenience to her weekend plans. The family group chat kept buzzing, but I muted it and called Leah instead. She picked up on the first ring, her voice warm and steady like always. "Ella, I'm at the office, but I can leave early. Ryan is already covering your morning client calls again. He said to tell you the team has your back and not to let them twist this into something it is not." Leah's support helped, but it also highlighted how alone I felt, even with good people around me. Ryan texted right after offering to bring takeout to my place after work, so I would not have to cook while everything felt like it was unraveling. I thanked them both, but the knot in my chest stayed tight. Jacob showed up at my door that evening looking exhausted. His shoulders slumped in a way that told me the doubt my mother planted had taken root. We sat at the kitchen table, and he rubbed his temples before speaking. "Your mother called me again this morning. She laid it all out, Ella, how they left you to teach you self-reliance, and how you never really forgave them for it. I get that it was hard, but hiding the full story from me makes me wonder what else I do not know. I need some space to think about us while this blows over. His words hit harder than any of my mother's jabs because they came from the one person I thought saw the real me. I told him I understood, even though it felt like another door closing. We hugged goodbye at the door, but it was the kind of hug that already felt like an ending. After he left, I sat alone in the quiet apartment, the city lights from suburban Nashville flickering outside my window. And I realized this was what setting boundaries looked like. No dramatic revenge, no sudden family turnaround. Just me choosing not to bend anymore, and the loneliness that came with it settling in like an old coat I had outgrown, but could not quite throw away. The certified letter arrived 2 days later from a different lawyer my mother had hired, demanding a meeting about the trust fund or threatening to release family communications that would paint me as the ungrateful one who had cut them out after Evelyn's help. I read it once, then filed it away without replying. Leah and Ryan checked in every day, bringing coffee or covering shifts, but even their kindness could not fill the space where my family used to be. My mother sent one final text that night. "This is your last chance, Ella. Sign or we all move on without you." I did not answer. I blocked the number instead, then sat on my couch with the remote in my hand and the television on low, feeling the full weight of the isolation I had chosen. It was not the victory I once imagined. There was no triumphant moment where everyone saw the truth and apologized. Just me, 30 years old with a job I liked, friends who cared, and a quiet apartment that now felt both safe and empty. I had set the boundary, walked away from the constant erosion of my worth. And in doing so, I had traded one kind of loneliness for another. The kind that came from knowing I was finally choosing myself, even if no one else was choosing me back. Some nights, the silence still pressed in, reminding me that protecting my peace had cost the last threads of the family I grew up with. But in that same silence, I could hear Evelyn's voice from all those years ago telling me I was never the extra piece. I was the one who got to decide what came next. And for the first time, that felt like enough, even if it meant standing alone. Thank you for listening to my story. If you have ever had to choose your own peace over family pressure and ended up feeling more alone than you expected, drop a comment below. I read every single one, and knowing I'm not the only one makes this a little easier.